Why do we think those books, Fixing Your Car for Dummies or Chemistry for Dummies, were so popular? It's because we realize that when we try to be a master of everything, we are absolutely a master of nothing. If you're new here, my name is Becky Truda, and over the past 6 years, I have been decluttering and organizing my home in order to best clear out the overwhelm and anxiety and start actually enjoying the home that I'm living in. So through that, I've learned these 7 ideas that kept getting me stuck along the way of organization. And we're also going to talk about how to overcome them and so that we can start organizing and decluttering our home and feeling successful. So for me, very much the first one has to be that everything has to be perfect. And that is completely and utterly untrue. And yet a lot of us never want to get started on decluttering because we're afraid that we're going to do it wrong, waste money and time, and then have to just go back and do it again. A lot of us look at those highly organized homes that we'll see online on Pinterest or our organizational friends that we follow, and we just think, why can't all of my things look like that? Why can't I decanter everything that I own in my kitchen and put them in these perfect little boxes? And where there is a place in space for those things, I do feel like a lot of us, including myself, feel like it's a hard place to even get started because we're aiming for perfection. So over these 6 years, I realized that so often I would get stuck, not wanting to move forward in case I made a mistake. And I think not only because I made so many mistakes in the past of overbuying things and then realizing those organizational products I thought were going to work didn't, and I'd have to declutter them, I just got this paranoia over everything. And so how did I overcome that, right? What I started to do instead was I would look at these small spaces one at a time, and I would think about, how can I make this space easier for me? Not how can I organize it, not what things do I need to bring in order for everything to be perfect, but what is one thing that I could do to make this area a little easier? And you know what? Most of it was decluttering things that I wasn't using. It wasn't bringing anything in or having the perfect system. It was taking things out that were overwhelming the space and making it not function for me. So if you are stuck in the idea that everything has to be perfect when you start to organize, or why even start, changing that thinking into, how can I slowly simplify this space to make it just easier for me and my brain, has helped me to get over the procrastination station and find ways that actually work for me. The next one we can very much get stuck on is thinking that we have to declutter everything all at once. Have you guys ever had one of those like massive yard sales and you think, okay, I had this yard sale, so now my house is going to be perfect? Yes, you too? The idea that we're going to walk into our homes, be able to do some massive declutter, get rid of all of the random things and never have to do it again, is a myth that we all can stand and try and die on that pole, because it's just not going to work. Even if you're living by yourself and not with kids, the idea that you're going to be able to declutter everything, in one day and it's going to be perfect is just not going to be a reality. And it's setting unachievable expectations for yourself that is going to make you not want to keep moving forward. So instead of listening to what people always told me, that you just need one spring cleaning and everything will be decluttered out of your house, I started believing the idea that I needed to declutter a little bit at a time. That if my closet was overwhelming me, I could take a few pieces out and make it feel better. That when my holiday stuff starts piling up, instead of buying a bunch of new boxes during the holidays in order to store all this new stuff that I've bought, I need to declutter some of the old to bring in the new. That one in, one out rule works so much better than setting these extremely high expectations of ourselves. Plus, I just want to let you know this, that you need to give yourself a break, okay? The fact that you are actually trying to learn how to organize and declutter your home, you deserve a high five. There you go. You got it? Because what I like to continue to tell myself, and so you guys as well, is that we want to remember that we want to make decluttering fun and easy so that our brains want to do this over and over again. Because how do we build a habit? We got to make our brain happy to do it. It's got to feel easy, and it's got to be something that we can do over and over again and get that dopamine hit of success in order for it to be something that we can continue doing throughout our entire lives. If you haven't gotten stuck on this one, then I am so impressed with you. But for me, I used to get stuck on the idea that I needed to hit up the Container Store and buy everything that was new and out and fancy so that my house could finally feel organized and put together. And like the magazines, right? The unfortunate thing about this idea is that we end up buying a bunch of organizational things, supplies, bins, boxes, and all the whatnot. And then we realize at the end of the day that most of them probably aren't going to work for you. Because while organization is something that we all need a certain aspect of in our home for it to run and function the right way, we all have different needs. And for me, what I realized is that I cannot highly organize everything in my home. When I start to break down everything into really tiny categories and try to put all those categories into tiny little boxes, I get overwhelmed and I don't put them back where they belong because it just feels like too much for me. So what you need to do is just start small. You don't need to go to the Container Store until you're done decluttering. I'm going to say that one more time. You do not need to go to the Container Store until you have finished decluttering. And I don't mean like finish decluttering like you're never doing it again, but finish the big bulk of it. Because then what you'll realize is that you can slowly bring in things that are going to work for you. And you don't have to worry that you are organizing things that you're later just going to get rid of. Before we move on to the next one, I want you to think of the word repurpose, repurpose, repurpose. Please don't think that you need to go to the store and buy something fancy and new because you have nothing. I bet you have something in your home that you could reuse right now, a basket or a box that you could use instead of buying something new at this moment. Because the most beautiful thing that I've learned about organization and decluttering is that a lot of us are not natural organizers. And so what we need to do is we need to live in our spaces and see if having a box or basket there with a lid or a hook in that corner is really as useful as our brains are telling us it might be. All right, I would love to know who can relate to this one as well. And that is the fear that as we are organizing, if we cannot see it, that we're going to forget we own it and we're just going to rebuy it. And as somebody who has ADHD, believe me, this was my struggle I went through most of my life. And that was, I had to just have everything out at all times. All the makeup had to be out, all the kitchen appliances had to be out, or I wasn't going to remember to use them. And where there is a space for that, what I like to do now is I call it zoning. I have different zones for different items. And if it does not fit into my zone one, my most important items that I use several times throughout the day, I've realized that there are different ways of organizing where I don't forget I own it, but it doesn't need to be visible. So changing that mindset for me was really difficult. But what I realized is the other aspect that I wasn't recognizing was that I am, yes, a very highly visual person, but on the other hand, I'm very highly visual, so all the clutter distracts me as well. Have you ever looked around your house and you literally feel like you couldn't get started on a task because you see all these little things sitting out? That doesn't happen to all of us, but it does happen to me. And if you are struggling with visual clutter and not feeling productive, like you can get things done because you're noticing all these things all of the time and you're making that checklist in your head, then there needs to be a balance. You need to create zones for your items. And so only the most used items are out visibly, and everything else, believe me, if you throw a label on it and you put it in a box, you will build the habit in order to remember where those things go. And so we don't have to live in the fear of out of sight, out of mind. Before we start this next one, if you are enjoying learning about decluttering and organizing, then please join this little community here and subscribe. And also throw a heart emoji down below if you are decluttering and organizing with us, because it really does make my day. But let's talk about the next one, which is the fact that we do not need to keep everything just in case. I don't know if I should call this the weirdest thing that I had to identify in myself when I was decluttering, but it certainly was a wake-up call when I finally heard this from the minimalists, and they talked about how we hang on to things even though we never use them, and it's always that just in case fear that we're living in. And what I realized is that though I didn't think that was my big problem, it definitely was. I was living in the idea that if I'd used it once, then I needed to keep it, because obviously I'd used it one time, right? It had served me one time. So what if it serves me again? And when we live in that idea, certainly we have way, way more than we could ever organize anyway. And that was a big problem for me. The idea of finding a home for my items was impossible because I had so much that I couldn't even comprehend being able to organize these things together. And so that feeling of, I just can't let this go because I remember a time when I used it, is a big speed bump that we have to get over. And something that did help me and work with the way my ADHD brain works is that I can't always just say yes or no, that there's a clear answer there, because I have time blindness. I have a hard time remembering the last time I used it. And that's not necessarily just an ADHD thing. I think a lot of us struggle with that. But if you are struggling with this idea, then I want you to create a maybe bin. And I want you to have it in a place that you know where it goes. Like I have mine in my closet in our spare room, and I will put it on my calendar when I'm going to declutter it, which usually I give myself a couple of weeks to a month. And I know by then, if I did not use this item, I do not need this item. And I can let it go, not having that fear of what if. And I guarantee you, and I will set my name on this. I guarantee you that the more that you use your maybe bin, the more often that you realize you don't need it anymore. And so now I very rarely use it. It's only really used for clothing sometimes when I can't seem to let things go, or jewelry. But for most other things in my house, I don't need a maybe bin anymore because I trust myself now. But that took a lot of time and effort. And so it's not something that you're just going to figure out overnight. I kind of wish that I could walk you guys around my house right now, because if you were around it, you would know that I am not perfect, that I right now can see things laying out that are not where they should go. And it is not aiming for perfection. We are aiming for better than we were the day before. And that really goes back to the idea that I would get stuck in, I have to organize, organize, organize. And as I organize, then I will declutter. And that was thinking about things all the wrong way. I was trying to get this perfect home, right? Without thinking that, one, there is no perfect, okay? We're always going to be a bit of a hot mess, and that's okay, because I can appreciate now where I am compared to where I used to be. So the idea that if I just organize my homes, if I just have the right containers, if I can just do it now, my home will feel better, is something that I had to give myself a reality check on, because it doesn't work that way. It's like trying to go up the wrong side of the escalator. You might get a little bit further on, but eventually you're going to hit where you are too tired and exhausted to keep going up that hill, and it's going to drag you all the way back down. And sometimes in our head, we overcomplicate what this calm home really should look and feel like. We see all the pictures and other people's videos of what their beautiful homes look like, and we think, I'm never going to be there. I'm never going to have that. And really what we're missing is the idea that none of the homes, my home certainly included, is going to look and feel perfect or even right for you. You're going to have to find your threshold where you feel like you are a master of your things. And once I really understood that idea that I am the curator of this beautiful home, like we would when we go in a museum. A museum feels calm and beautiful and serene, not because everything is perfect. Often there are pictures missing, and there are little children running around, and people leave their drinks where they're not supposed to. But overall, it still feels really good to be in an art museum. And why is that? It's because, no, they're not aiming for absolutely perfect, but they are aiming for their threshold where the museum can still feel open and airy and welcoming and bright. So you want to be there and experience that place. And that's really what we're heading for. What experience are you aiming for in your home, and how can you slowly get there through decluttering and organization? Because buying things and bringing things in obviously hasn't been the answer. All right, friends, if you have enjoyed listening to this video, which I certainly hope you have, then please follow along by clicking one of these videos here, and I wish you guys all the very best.